Police in Israel have arrested 42 protesters who've been marching against the government's planned judicial changes. Demonstrators, as you can see, blocked highways leading to West Jerusalem, Haifa and Tel Aviv. You're watching live pictures now from Tel Aviv. Now, on Monday, Israel's parliament approved a bill for a judicial overhaul in its first reading. Protesters say the new law will limit the Supreme Court's oversight powers. Well, let's bring in our correspondent, Imran Khan. He joins us now live from occupied East Jerusalem. Imran, these have been ongoing protests for some time.
That's right. These protests have now been going on for nearly 27 weeks. That's almost 6 months. And today they are getting bigger and bigger. Perhaps these will be bigger than we've seen in the past. Now, we saw about 150,000 people out in the streets of just Tel Aviv on Saturday. The protest movement expects that number to rise. And also, the arrests are rising as well. So far, 42 people have been arrested. Expect that figure to rise even as we're talking. Now, the reason that the protest movement is going into overdrive is twofold. Firstly, there was this reading of a bill. For the first reading of the bill, you have to have 3 to get a bill passed on the reasonable standards. Now, what does that mean? It means the Supreme Court is allowed, for example, to tell a cabinet minister that he can't take office because perhaps he has a criminal conviction. That's their power. This is something that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to completely overturn. He says it's too much power for the Supreme Court. Not so, say many Israelis and the protest movement, who say that this is just a part and parcel of democracy. Now, as all of this goes on, the second part of this, the reason why they're protesting, is the parliamentary recess is about to come up. They go into recess on July 30th, at the end of the month. Now, this means that the protesters have a limited amount of time to try and stop the government from pushing any further bills through. So the protest movement actually is, and forgive the pun, they have gone into overdrive. They are now blocking highways. That's something that the Israeli police say they won't allow them to do. But so far in West Jerusalem, they've blocked a highway. They're also protesting outside of the Supreme Court. They're in Tel Aviv, they're in Haifa, and they're in incredibly large number.
Imran, so in terms of process, now that Parliament has given this initial approval, just how far are we from this potentially then becoming law?
Well, there needs to be 3 readings of this. What happens is there's a first reading, then it goes back to committee, then there's a second reading, then it goes back to committee, then there's a third reading, and then the Knesset can pass the law. Because Prime Minister Netanyahu's far-right coalition has a wafer-thin majority, it's been able to push through a lot of the reforms, but a lot of the reforms have also been incredibly slowed down as well, and that's a victory for the protest movement. Also, Tom Knights, the US ambassador to Israel, has also been speaking. He says he's in contact with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He wants to slow things down. He's looking to that parliamentary recess, as I just explained earlier, as a natural break and somewhere where negotiations can take place between this far-right coalition and the opposition to try and come up with some sort of compromise. But the government is trying to push these bills through as quickly as it can.
Imran Khan there with the latest for us from occupied East Jerusalem. Thank you, Imran.